That's enough of that. Let's get some folks in here real quick. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
All that setup, it finally worked. All right. So welcome back, everybody, to the Created Economy. It's our weekly interview series where we interview voices and players from the creator economy at large, discussing key topics impacting the growth of the creator economy and all the people who are involved in it as well. We do go live on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and you can find out more over at created.show. It's the official show page. You can find all our future episodes, programming, etc. By the way, we do stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn. Oh, no, I got to check. Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. So we're live in all those places. So choose your poison and join us wherever you may like. We also do post the show notes, longer form content over at createdeconomy.com. It's the official official site for the show. So welcome back. And so let's get right into it. We've got a lot going on. I've been waiting for this conversation for far too long. Heather and I have become like pen pals at this point because I just sent her crap that I'm like, hey, have you read this yet? Have you read this yet?
Yeah. No, I'm so excited for this.
So this week we're here with our friend Heather Ramirez, which interestingly enough, I found and met originally in the Discord, the Means of Creation Discord. The really funny thing, though, is that I'm a huge fan of her husband's content, actually. And so I just randomly one day, I don't know if you asked Tom, but I actually sent him an email just to say thanks.
I did.
Oh, okay.
He's watching you right now.
I know. It's so funny. I was just fanboying anyway because I just love the stuff he's putting out. So I just said, hey, I just want to say hi and thank you for all your stuff, even your funny, you're not so funny dad puns.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, all right. And just randomly we started chatting and I was like, wait a minute. And then I realized, made the connection and I was like, oh, well, this would be great. Turns out though, that the reason Heather and I connected was because she left a comment about sort of creator monetization, creator economics, and some of these other things that were going on. Turns out we share a passion for sort of this universe. And so we wanted a chance to chat. I know you're working on this with your clients. And so we wanted to have the deep dive because you are a YouTube coach. And here, what I want to do is let's give you a chance first to just introduce yourself. And then we'll dive into some questions.
Sure. So my name is Heather Ramirez. I actually have 2 YouTube channels. So I've been creating on YouTube since 2016 and basically found myself in a position where people were asking me how they can use YouTube to share their own stories. So I just it just kind of happened that I become a YouTube coach. And I'm just super passionate about helping people share their stories and build their brands on YouTube. And now that's what I do. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at Tom.
We have this great comment here from.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. But backstory, if you don't know who I am or Tom Buck, we actually met on YouTube. So
No joke.
yeah, he found one of my videos. So I'm a huge fan of YouTube, if that is not evident. And I 100%.
So you're saying I was just like 2 years late? I could have been married to him?
The algorithm like totally works. I have so much like admiration for this platform.
Greg, be very
yeah.
careful, because I worry that Tom's going to just bust through that door and just hijack the entire conversation.
The Kool-Aid man.
It's like, oh hey Greg, how's it going? Like, hold on, we'll get Tom on another show, and you guys
totally.
Well, we have to get Tom. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be just a pleasure in general. So Heather, you had mentioned we have some questions, or can I have a lot of questions actually?
Yeah.
We put all the hard. So the way we do this is we start easy and then we get to really hard ones.
Let's do it.
Without any commercial breaks or any hijinks. This is not an NBC game show.
I will preface this conversation by saying I'm so excited to talk to you guys, because I feel like you two are the first people that I'm actually talking to that understand creator economy, passion economy, stuff like that. Usually I'm the one that's like, okay, guys, here's like different ways that you can monetize on YouTube. But you guys, you've been in this space longer than I have. I'm just discovering startups and like tech, like all of this stuff. So I'm really excited to get into it.
I was sure you were going to say that the reason you wanted to be on the show is because you were huge fans of the Muppets and you wanted to be with the two old guys.
No.
Wait, which Muppet am I? Which of the old guys
You're
am
the one
I?
on the
right.
right.
I'm the one on the right? Okay, all right. Not the one on the left, because he's a little shorter. We're...
Hey, wait. I don't know about that. All right. But Ken, this actually first question was from you. And actually, Heather just touched on those two terms. And by the way, we do appreciate that. I wouldn't say we know more, but we certainly made more mistakes. So...
Well, and we all come in from different angles, different perspectives, right? I mean, you come in from a YouTube, like, we know startups, but we don't know everything about the creator and the passion space. So this helps us to learn more. And it's great that you brought up, the creator economy versus the passion economy. I actually came across a live stream you did with Tom, I think it was last week, where you're trying to explain that. And I've heard about, the passion economy, and in tech, there's a lot of these buzzwords where everyone likes to label these type of things. Mm-hmm. When you look at, there was an article this week from Legion, the venture capitalist, who's talking about passion economy, which we will get to it a little bit. But I want to kind of, really just scratch the surface, right? Because it was talking about the passion economy, and I'm thinking, like, okay, are we talking about the same thing? Because we talk about the creator economy here. At least that's my understanding of what people are doing on YouTube, Instagram, Snap, and everything like that. But then there's others that are like yourself that's talking about the passion economy. And I'm thinking, it's like, if you could draw some sort of a Venn diagram of these type of things, you can kind of see where things overlap. For those that are listening and those that are going to be watching this later on, could you define what the passion economy is?
From your point of view.
From your point of view, right. And then
answers, but how do you frame it?
Yeah, how do you frame it? And then how does what constitutes a creator economy?
So a lot to unpack here. This is still like a thesis that I'm exploring, but basically, I came into YouTube the way that I think most people come into YouTube, which is you are a YouTube creator, you create videos, you try to amass as many subscribers and views as possible, and you monetize off of sponsorships, YouTube ads, or affiliates, which I think is the most common model to like YouTube success. And so we're always chasing after like silver play button, gold play button. Obviously, YouTube has their different awards to encourage creators to keep creating content on their platform. The thing is that I always felt like I was not good enough, because I just have over 10,000 subscribers on one of my channels. So and I'm a YouTube coach. And so I always felt like, oh, am I like good enough to be a YouTube coach? Because the thing that like is celebrated is like all these trying to get these crazy numbers. And basically when I heard Legion and Adam Davidson like independently talk about the passion economy, I just kind of like took it both in, and I was like, wait, this is totally what I'm doing, and I'm already making a living doing what I love without having like the typical YouTube success. And so I just saw, it's like, it was just like I saw everything through this lens of, wait, I don't have to, instead of YouTube being the end goal, YouTube can be like a means to an end, right? So the way that I would define the passion economy, especially in the context of a YouTube creator, is that instead of amassing these crazy hundreds of thousands, millions, numbers, instead you build a community and you offer a transformational service or product to that community so that you're monetizing directly from the audience. You would have to make your money off of another platform, like, create an online course, offer a group coaching program, or build a community on something like Mighty Networks or something like that. Right. So that's how I would define it.
So the passion economy, what separates the passion economy from others in the space, other terms, is the notion of a community.
Yeah. So, one of the things that's talked about a lot in this space is like the 1,000 true fans, 100 true fans. So that's how I approach it, is like you can get 100 community members, right? So instead of just following and just subscribing and just watching, you can build a really tight-knit, engaged community where you're almost like creating the platform for people to unite around the common passion, right? Or the common goal that you create content about. And then if you have 100 people who are also invested in that thing, you could charge like $1,000 over the period of 12 months and make a living, right? So now that is relatively new in the YouTube space, because, I think even when we think of how, you would monetize on YouTube, basically it was coming from like, okay, a company signed your check, YouTube would sign your check, a sponsor would sign your check. And then we have these things like tipping and super chats and memberships, but it's still these like low ticket items, so that if you were trying to build a whole business off of your YouTube channel, you still need like crazy amounts of numbers and subscribers in order to see any longevity or sustainability. And so, for me, I just feel like it's so much easier, especially for YouTube creators who aren't necessarily going to have mass appeal. Like 100%, I consider myself, it'd be great to get the silver play button. But I don't need it, right? Like I couldn't even tell you what my YouTube numbers are, because I just don't check it. My business does not depend on like always growing on YouTube. That's not to say that like, I'm still creating content regularly, I'm still very passionate about it, but I think because I depend on it less than your typical YouTube creator, I have other ways to monetize, and I'm not as dependent on the YouTube growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, totally. And so Heather, actually, I think the first time we met or we started chatting, I sent you this diagram, and I think this is what helped you sort of saying, "Oh, I'd love to chat about this." Mm-hmm. And I believe, like, number one, I think Anthony had a great comment. By the way, Anthony and I went to the same junior high. However, we didn't know that.
I thought it was the same high school.
With same junior high and high school. We grew up like 5 minutes, like probably 10 minutes walking distance from each other. But the interesting thing was that Ken is the one who actually introduced us randomly.
Oh, how weird.
So small, short story. Anthony's an amazing photographer as well. So Absolutely. You should go buy his prints. But Heather, I think the thing that we were talking about and the thing you're describing to me is ultimately, I've been in this space for about 10 or 11 years or so. And I think the interesting thing is that I think about it from generations, right? Yeah. And so that first, what you're describing to me is what I call the Gen 3 sort of creator, right? And I use Joe Pulizzi's term, which I love, is the content entrepreneur. And I believe this is a person who is trying to monetize from the beginning, right? Yeah. As opposed to like waiting until you achieve like sort of some massive scale, right? And
then it's like, what do we do with this?
That's right. And you're right. Like, and to Anthony's point, it just may not, it may be really impossible. So there's two parts to this. One, it may be really hard to get to 100,000, 1 million subs anymore on YouTube, or certainly like years and years of time, right? As opposed to previously where maybe that was like a year, right?
Yeah.
Obviously there's always like these exceptions to the rule.
Always.
But no one should count that as the norm, right? And then the second part is it worth getting to that point, right? Like, would 1 million subs actually make you $1 million a year? I don't think so anymore, actually, right? Like, there's a lot of factors that go into this sort of equation that it seems that you may not get there. So I actually really appreciate where you're starting from, which is, you know, you can monetize early by offering and creating value, right? For a small handful of people, or maybe a small community of people, right? As opposed to waiting until you have a massive audience and then figuring out how to extract value from that.
Yeah, I just don't think it's practical to go into it thinking that you're gonna get because like even for me, I started YouTube like peak Casey Neistat, Gary Vee, 2016, daily vlogs, like the whole thing. You know, it was that was when I entered, and I played that game of I'm gonna upload a video, you know, once a day, if not twice a day, and just like crunch out the content. And like, you know, obviously the culture has evolved and we know that that's not sustainable or practical, but even someone who is that dedicated, just realistically, you can put in that much work and still never get there, right? Because there's just so many things that are not in your control. To me, it's just more practical to like, let's just, if the end goal is to like use all these tools to make a living around the thing that you're passionate about, it's never been easier. Like you could do that now because of these tools. You could do that now because of YouTube. And I think that that's a lot more fulfilling than like the silver play button.
So here's a question related. One of my questions I sort of had, I guess, was just, so you're a YouTube coach, or you're a coach to YouTubers, right? What does that entail exactly? Like, who are the kinds of people who should come to you, right? And is there like sort of a philosophy or framework that you sort of use to try to like get people to where they want to be?
Right. So I believe that when it comes to YouTube, there are just the basic rules to, you know, obviously you have to have a catchy title. You should customize your thumbnails. Like there are things that just like, if we're on YouTube, we know we need to like kind of speak the language. But other than that, I feel like, to your point, like you said earlier, there's always going to be exceptions to the rules because there's so many people on YouTube. As soon as you say like, oh, you should put your YouTube shorts on a second channel and don't put it on your main channel, someone else has put it on their main channel and has seen success. So like, I just don't think that there is like one way to do it. And so I take the approach of like, you know, how do we translate your unique story into the medium that is a YouTube video? And how do we, you know, do all the right things, optimize and keywords and tags and all of those things to make sure that you have the highest discovery potential for your content. But then really, I just think it comes down so much to the creator and that creator's community and like how, you know, what story they want to tell. There's just so many ways to go about it. So it's really more of like asking the right questions and really providing support. Because I think that's another piece that's missing. So say like you come into YouTube and you don't know anyone else in your life who's doing YouTube. So there's nobody to ask. YouTube isn't going to, you know, give you any help. And if you have any questions about YouTube, what do? You go to YouTube and you watch tutorials that are all telling you things on how to maximize your views and subscribers. And here's what happens. When you start creating content, probably you get a video where, oh, it's starting to pop off and YouTube is giving you all these green arrows and things are looking good. Hey, maybe they start sending you a check. But a lot of the times what I have found personally, and a lot of people that I've worked with, the videos that start to take off aren't necessarily like in line with your end goal. So I'll use myself as an example. I made a video about Postmates because 6 months into my entrepreneurial journey, I ran out of money, but I happened to be in the same co-working space as like a Postmates community person back in the day. And he was like, hey, this is a great money to kind of, or a great opportunity to, you know, hold you over as you're building your whole like entrepreneurial journey thing. And I was like, great. This is when Postmates, like, I didn't know what Postmates was. I just knew it was like, okay, I can't do Uber because I have a 2-door Camaro, but I could do this and I can, you know, make money instantly on my schedule. I was like, this is totally going to work for me. I made a video about how to, you know, 10 tips on being a Postmate. And that to this day is my most successful video. I got to a point where I unlisted it because it was bringing in the wrong people. Right. I've never gotten so many comments about, like, I was super aware that I was a female creator, after that video was out.
Yeah. Ugh.
And like I made that video because on my vlog I was documenting like here's like how dedicated I am to my thing, where I am going to do what I have to do to keep like progressing with my mission. And this is a part of that story. But the way that people were finding me were like, I want to make money as a Postmate. Like I want to do this full time. And so it was just bringing in the wrong audience and stuff like that. So long story long, I think that there is a lot of, you get a video that pops off and you think like, okay, obviously the thing to do would be to lean into that. But sometimes that's not, like, I'm not playing, you're not my boss, YouTube, right? Like, I know you're telling me like the feedback that you are giving me is that this is what I need to do, but that's not what I want to do. And I think that support to tell you like, what do you actually want to do, and to kind of remind you, what is your end goal and not YouTube's end goal, is where I play a part.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty classic from the sort of startup entrepreneurial world, is that there are lots of lead sources, but not all leads are good, right? Like there can be trash leads, not everything is a qualified lead. And so if you're building an audience or a following of people from like a sugar high of one kind or another,
right,
it's not necessarily getting you to the place that you want to get to. Actually, Anthony had a quick question here for you as well. Was are YouTube Shorts changing sort of the advice that you give to creators?
Here, I'll be totally honest with you. I don't know what to say about YouTube Shorts. I haven't seen enough data, or I guess I should say I've seen data that supports like multiple strategies. So I don't know how I feel about it yet. I think it's too early. I know they have their, their Shorts fund and stuff like that, but
if you're using Shorts out there, put a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear as well. Yeah. Well, Colin and Samir said we should use Shorts, so they know everything.
But here's an interesting question for you, Heather.
Yeah.
In terms of, as we're talking about with Shorts, you've just celebrated 5 years of your YouTube channel, and as a coach, and I kind of want to still get back. I'm still a little fixated in terms of the difference between the passion economy and the creator economy. How are you?
It takes a while to get things.
So. This is very true. I'm a little slow. It's the kombucha I drink. They say it's not alcoholic, but you never know.
Oh, that's why I drink it. I get like a headache. Anyway, sorry, go.
But what is your advice to those that think, oh, I need to be on everything, right? We had a Nicolina Moon earlier on the show, and I asked her, what would entice you to jump onto a different platform, right? Like say moving from YouTube to, Snap or, Instagram or whatever, or the newest startup that comes onto the scene. And she said, well, it wouldn't really be any of the bells and whistles. It's more about how does that platform help me grow my audience? Now, her perspective is probably different from yours in terms of, she's more on the creator side and you're more on the passion side.
Yeah.
But for those that you advise, they're like, why do I need to go onto YouTube? Should I be on just YouTube? Is it okay for me to be on YouTube? Should I be on TikTok? Should I be on Instagram? Should I be cross promoting? What about all these? Basically all these platforms are now bribing me to create content for them. And then we can talk about the mental health implications of, constantly being forced to create later on. But I mean, let's start with that. Like,
okay. So, first of all, I still believe this, and you could say that I'm biased, but I honestly believe that YouTube is the best platform to create a community on. And I don't think anybody comes close. Building an audience, maybe TikTok, maybe other platforms are, more effective at building an audience. But in terms of community, it doesn't even come close at all. And 3 reasons for that. One is the quality of the content that you watch on YouTube is still very, it's that personal. I'm not going to connect with a 15-second TikTok, like with that creator. In fact, like I've never downloaded it. So maybe I'm assuming here. Yeah. But like the people that have used it, they're like, oh yeah, this is entertaining content, but I have no idea who these creators are. Like,
TikTok is the happiest place on the internet. Get out of here.
And then so that's number one. I feel like the connection is just like, I can't tell you how many people have told me, I feel like I know you already because of your YouTube videos, right? And I think that that's unique to YouTube. Two is curation. So many times I'll see a tweet or a post on Instagram that I'm like, oh, I need to show this to Tom, and I'll try to pull up my phone and I have no idea like where it is. I can't find it or whatever. On YouTube, it's like there's playlists. I could make my own playlist. The creator can make playlists. Like, there's a history that you can see all the videos that you watched before. There's likes. There's a lot of ways for you and the creator to connect you with the content that you want to watch. If you have 1,000 posts on Instagram, there's no way that I'm going to see post number 237. Even if it's like the one post that I need to see right now, there's just no way to get to it. And that's like really frustrating to me.
Would you suggest though that for us, like say we're primarily on YouTube, we broadcast on YouTube, but we syndicate elsewhere, but
yeah,
should we be doing like, oh, let's go and do, Instagram lives, or while Greg's, after he puts his kid to sleep and he's like trying to put himself to sleep, he just surfs through TikTok, and then like, should he be doing those type of things? Or is it better to just to put all your eggs in one basket and just really focus and double down on what actually
is the other aspect to YouTube is that it's a search engine first and foremost, right? So you can, and I think that's like the best discoverability method, is that you can go to the search bar and find exactly what you're looking for. And their algorithm, like I said, is pretty good. Now, I also recommend having a secondary platform to cultivate that community, because oftentimes like your hardcore fans who want to go more, beyond subscriber and commenter, they're going to want to see the behind the scenes. They want to connect with you. They just want to see like more content or different content that's not on your main YouTube channel, which is where I think like a Twitter, an Instagram, a TikTok, or, whatever secondary platform where it is mainly audience building, I would actually go there, because I think the audience building like features are a lot more engaging, right? They're like different. They allow you to get to know creator in a way that's different from what they put out on their YouTube channel. Cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Because there's always a worry about like the shiny object, right? You're talking about how we know tech. It's like, oh, this latest thing that comes out.
Yeah.
There's now early this week there was a new app to replace Instagram called Glass. It's iOS only app. So it's like, do I need to jump onto that, or do I need to jump onto the newest startup that comes out? Where do I want to really? I mean, at which point do you move from just like creating content as part of the creator economy to actually following what you really want to do? It's like, I just want to be able to, tell people how to make, shoes or whatever. Right. And
so like, I get the appeal of sticking strictly to the content or the creator economy model, because it's passive, right? Like Tom knows that he can pretty much like estimate, okay, this is how much money I'm going to make per video or per month based on my upload schedule. So I get that. And the passion economy is not passive, at least to start, right? Because I know my people, like my community members, I know them by name, we connect daily, we're always interacting. So, I'm working, but I like that. So, the thing with these other platforms, the shiny object syndrome, is that a lot of what I'm seeing is the incentive of, hey, here's another way to monetize, but you still need, it's still like, oh yeah, here's like a percentage, but you still, in order to have it be anything substantial, you have to either come with an existing audience and bring them there, or start all over again on a brand new platform, which like, it's a tough game.
So in theory, though, the point of having the community, not the point, I guess, or a path to monetization with the community, is that because you have tighter relationships with a set of people that well, is to be able to bring or bridge to new things. Now, so it doesn't necessarily need to be that, get them to join a new platform per se, but ultimately you're trying to find ways to turn that into a lifestyle or turn that into a business, right? In some manner, I would hope.
Right. So you have, like, in order for you to be successful at the passion economy business model, you need to offer something transformational that's either a product or service. That's the thing, right? If you do the creator economy business model, your product is your videos or your content. And so you just have to endlessly churn content over and over and over. And then you inevitably get to the point where YouTube is telling you make more of this. And then you're like, but that's not what I want to make. But that's the stuff that, so you end up going there real fast.
So
and
can I ask a question? In your mind, would you call this bottom one passion? Like instead of content entrepreneur, because it feels like the distinction you kind of make is that as a creator, your sort of job is content.
Yeah.
Right. But potentially that this pathway is about passion.
Yeah. So, and like the thing with passion is like, it's easier to make content, obviously, right? Like I think with the passion economy, it's hard because oftentimes you don't know what you're going to sell until the community exists. And you're like, oh, all of these people have the same problem. Here's a solution. Let me develop a solution to address that, So I think but I just think that that's it's an easier game to play because you have direct feedback from the people. Whereas YouTube is like literally a graph telling you, numbers that just like, it's like, it's just like the worst boss ever.
In a weird way, in like in journalism parlance, it's like, I guess what you've been describing, it's almost like for creators who are building or who are producing work based off of what YouTube is telling them they should be doing. It's like the creators are akin to being content farms, right? They're feeding the beast. They're constantly just slaving away it's like a drug, driving traffic, going for likes and subscribes. And then, but for you, it's a little bit more of for those in a passion economy, it's a little bit more in a cliche way, like nirvana, right? It's like, okay, I'm rising above the 9-to-5 hustle to like, I know what my overall end goal, this strategy. I haven't lost sight of this thing that I really, really love talking about or telling people about or showing off versus, just like this tactical, okay, I gotta put out this short and, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. Oh, hey, a dog just crossed the street. Let's do a YouTube short about that or whatever. Right. So.
And I think inevitably I think what we're seeing is that it's going to be hybrid, right? Mm-hmm. So inevitably, if you're doing passion economy business model, you're creating content all the way, the whole time. Your people are telling more people. And so it's, eventually I think that if you're really good at what you do, you're going to get into the thousands at some point. But what I've also seen is really massive creators create online courses, like high ticket online courses, because they want that one-on-one. So it's been really interesting to see that because I saw, Mark Rober, who's like one of the biggest YouTube creators, come out with an online course that's like, hey, let me teach you about like STEM, which is, different. So I think it's going to be, I think eventually everyone goes both. I would be curious as to what YouTube would think because, I think they would not be okay with, oh, we're just a tool now in your, I think Lee touches on this in her article. But like, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without YouTube, but 100% I have total ownership of my book of business. I get to decide when I talk to them. I get to decide how much I charge, how much I make. It's all on my schedule. And that to me is just, it's like so much more, to me, that's success. Like that's the thing to strive for. So
since you brought up that abomination of a post,
oh my God, I'm so excited about this. Let's go.
We'll be talking about this for the next 30 minutes.
Just about it. So I think Legion's post is like just sensationalist junk, right? And if you haven't read it yet, feel free to read it if you want to waste 20 minutes of your time.
I'll put it in the chat.
Ken will share a link to it.
Yeah.
The reason I say this is largely because there is no crisis, right? So, Heather and I were exchanging some notes earlier about this. And actually, I think you just articulated why I think there is no crisis. There may be a crisis for influence. So, by the way, as you distinguish between creator and passion, I probably label that influencer versus creator.
Yeah.
Just in my framing. Because I think influencers do, kind of to Tom's thing, they work the content farm. They're just like, what's the kind of post that gets the most views, that drives me to the right place, right? And gets me the kind of traction and attention and engagement that I need to basically sell to marketers and brands that basically are a good fit. The problem I have with Lee's post is ultimately that she's making it sound like you are not in control of your own self. Like YouTube can recommend what you should post about, but they certainly can't make you make it, right? Like it's not a gig economy. They don't post gigs for people to actually like fulfill, right? Like they show you analytics about your content, right? And now you may feel highly compelled to continue to double click on the types of content that are there. However, the reality is you always are still in charge, right? Like they don't edit you. They don't get to approve it because they don't like the nature of it. They could take words out. I get it. Their terms of service is very different than the brand turning around and saying like, you weren't excited enough in this post. Can you redo it? Right? Like they don't get to do that to you, right? Like you are not actually fulfilling gigs. P.S. What's wrong with doing gigs, right? Like every like grown-up business person, independent consultant, expert, entrepreneur sells services. I don't find it such a disparaging sort of point of view that we do fulfill work for people who have a demand for our skills or expertise, AKA the brands that pay 70% of the creator, fill 70% of creator pockets today, except on YouTube, by the way. So Heather, tell me why you agree with Lee, I guess, or why you think there's a crisis, because the thing I pointed out today in a tweet was just that what she's complaining about is literally what the last $2 billion invested in creator economy technologies is literally servicing. And it feels like what they're complaining about is that it hasn't all happened immediately, right? But if we look at the time frame, we have a ton of new dollars going in to help build tools for creators to build standalone pathways, right? And we see rapid reaction from the platforms to finally show up and be like, okay, there's some creators here. We should share some of the pie. Up until now, Instagram had paid not a penny to any creator, and suddenly there's money available. I get it. It's a pittance, but it's still better than the zero it was before, right? So that's why I have such a hard reaction to that post.
So I don't think that there's a crisis. And I think that was an interesting title to pick, because I honestly forgot that was I forgot that was the like approach he was taking, because I forgot what the title was, so I was just reading it. And I didn't get the vibe that it was that she was painting the picture of a crisis, but more of like, I can see how this is something to pay attention to. So I agree with her in the fact that creators don't have control. Are they, does that mean that YouTube is like a gig thing? No, you're right. Like you don't have to, YouTube isn't forcing you to make videos. YouTube isn't forcing you to make those kinds of videos. It'll show you the green arrows, but that's still your choice on whether you decide, you can make something else, right?
You also don't earn a residual on the groceries you dropped off from Postmates, right? Like, but you do get one on the videos that you leave out there.
Yeah. I think that what she was, my impression was that creators don't have a lot of control. Like, okay, for example, we have a friend who has, 100,000 plus subscribers, and his channel was hacked. He's had 100,000 subscribers for years. Okay. His whole business, his whole lifestyle is around this YouTube channel. And overnight, bam, it's gone. What do? Do you talk to YouTube? Well, he's lucky because he's verified. He's 100,000 plus. But what about those of us that aren't, right? And even him having a representative to talk to at YouTube, it took forever to get the channel back on. And now that it is back up, he's noticed that he has this ceiling that he's just hasn't been able to break ever since his channel got hacked. So I don't know what that is. And I'm sure YouTube will say like, oh, everything's fine on our end or whatever. So in that case, you know, it's hard when gig economies, you know, these companies will say like, here's what you're making today, you know, like here's the rate that you're going to pay. And we don't know why or where that comes from. The same with YouTube. It's like, well, we're just going to take this, or we're going to add this, or, you know, and there's no one to talk to. You cannot contribute any input on, you know, how things go, because the input that is given from any creators is all the guys at the top, you know, like Mr. Beast, and we're not operating the same way. So
so let me counter that. And I hear you, by the way. I understand all the points you're making, except I guess I have a very different frame on the points you're making, right? Let me provide an alternative view. And I know you agree with this view, by the way. My alternative view is that that's a marketing channel, right? And that's a technology layer. And everyone who builds on a marketing channel, leverages a marketing channel, or anyone who builds on a technology stack has inherent risk. Everyone, right? That marketing channel may dry up, that marketing channel may become ineffective, that marketing channel may become corrosive, right? That technology stack may be invalidated, may prove useless, right? May change its API and suddenly be not viable. Let me give you an example. My last company, Shoot, we raised $20 million, right? We were built on top of the Instagram platform, right? Literally, I had the most keys of authenticated users on the Instagram platform, like of everyone out there, right? Like we processed 1 billion photos a day.
Crazy.
Guess what? When Instagram decided that they were going to have their partner program, but they decided that the way you became a partner was that it was based on how many ads you sold, not by how many users were connected or any of these other criteria. Do you know what happened in the market? We got devoured by all the other people who were ad first companies, right? Who could go out and say, well, they're not partners, even though we were a partner. I had built a business. I had millions of dollars a year in revenue on top of it. That's not different. So I have no sympathy today for the point of view that we aren't given enough, or that there's risk. Risk is what's associated with being an entrepreneur. And so that's what I mean is, if this is your hobby, I get it, you know, fine. But the second you put that hat on and you turn it backwards and you're going to be in business now, then all of those things are real valid risks that you have to factor in to your time on any platform. It's also why everybody should be building their own standalone access.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And their own list, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. For years, I've been working on Zealous for 3 years. The first version of Zealous was a CRM. And you know what happened when I would tell like a creator, we're building a CRM for you? They would throw up on me, right?
That's very graphic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know why? Because they didn't want to deal with the business stuff, right? They didn't want to acknowledge that these things were there. We were warning them 3 years ago, right? That this is what you have to do, because if you were a business, this is what you would do, right? So these risks, they don't bother me in any way. These are natural risks. And like I said, we're coddling creators too much by telling them they're at risk, when the reality is you chose a pathway that has inherent risk in it, not that the platform is doing it to you, right? You chose the platform to create it.
Yeah. And that I agree with you, because to me, I akin it to like, if you can't complain about the rules of Monopoly if you're playing Monopoly. That's what my guest just said on my podcast yesterday.
That's right.
Know, it's like
unless you cheat.
Yeah.
Which I don't say I do, but you know.
So that's why I'm advocating for like, the pieces look the same, but we're playing a different game.
Absolutely.
And YouTube is a piece in that game.
I agree. And so that's why I thought it was interesting that you would. So my disagreement with her is largely the word crisis, because I think it's just being alarmist.
Right.
And the reaction that I've seen, by the way, from some people is platform hate, which I get all the reasons you could not like a platform. But I also, as a founder building new style platforms, actually way lined up with the tools that she's outlining. She's also making us take the barbs. Like we're suddenly doing the same bad things. I'm like, we've been trying to get creators to think and act like business people at the same time as they are creative people for ages. All of us, every founder out there, every founder watching right now, right, is likely trying to do the same. Everyone like you who's coaching and helping them understand how to turn their passion into a lifestyle or a business. What are we telling them? We're telling them to adopt good, strong practices that leave you and mitigate your risk. So
that I agree with.
you get free distribution, free hosting, free discovery.
I'll never complain about that. Yeah.
Right? And by the way,
it's amazing.
They keep half, right? They keep half. Like Twitch takes 70% or 50. Sorry, Twitch takes 50%, right? But even so, it's the customer acquisition cost. Like, what would it cost you to stand up a server, host your own videos,
right?
Market, bring people to your site, right?
And you'll never get the discoverability that you get on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but you own your data, you own your content. But there's a lot more work to do.
It's not like she doesn't own her content just because it's on YouTube. Maybe she may not have the distribution channel later, but she still owns it.
Well, no, but here's a different. Like, let's define own, right? I mean, there's like, yes, you own it in terms of like you might have the original files stored on your local machine, right? But there's nothing to say. I mean, this is a thing that Greg, our friend Chris Sada has been talking about for years, data portability, right? Where you put all your eggs into YouTube or Instagram, Facebook, Flickr, whatever, and say they go, they change everything, right? I think here's the thing, like, as you're talking, it kind of reminded me of the GeoCities days, right? And many of us had like a GeoCities website. That was the super easiest way to set up your digital presence, like woo. And then all of a sudden it vanishes, right? It shuts down, and you're like, how do I, if you didn't know how to FTP or whatever, how do you extract all that information, all that data, and move it to some other server, right? There was probably no real way to do that at the time. Now there is. So I mean, this is the kind of thing where you post everything onto YouTube, but then you lose all of that, right? And what happens after that? Like, because Heather, God forbid, YouTube's like, you know what? We're gonna screw everybody over, change it all up. Then you're like, okay, you have your stuff. Actually, case in point, right? YouTube just rolled out a policy where they say all your private, your unlisted videos are going to be private because of some security issue, right? And Tom, you got to do AIM. Hit me up on ICQ, by the way.
That was for the outsiders. Come on, the insiders had ICQ.
I had ICQ. I had IRC when I was in college too. But getting back to my point, YouTube rolled out a policy change where they're like, we're going to make all these your unlisted videos private by default, and in order for you to get it to be public or whatever, you're going to have to re-upload it. And by re-uploading it, you lose whatever traction you had
views,
before.
all your stats.
Right. Yep. And for those that
cared on those views, so what's your problem?
No, but continuous though, right? I mean, I think it's from like, people want to be able to have that historical archive as well. And it's like, you can re-upload again, and maybe that might game the algorithm. So it aims to like, oh, this video I posted of this Uber protest is now getting traction again, and therefore, but then your views start at zero, your likes start at zero, so how do you then, in order to gain that monetization, you got to get to a certain point onto YouTube, I'd imagine. So you're basically playing, Greg, and you've talked about this already. It's like you're at the whim of these platforms, right? In terms of, so you're not really owning anything, but you're on their platforms.
So I guess I still don't agree with this though, right? Because like the reality is you're at the whim of anything, right? Like if the weather shuts down tomorrow and you can't move your truck somewhere,
you lose your internet,
right? Like you lose your internet.
Pandemic.
It's like, stop. I guess I don't want victimology sort of brought into this, right? Like the reality is you could download your data. If you didn't do it, you're a jerk, right? Like, because if you think you needed it and you didn't download it, that's your problem, right? You got paid on every view that they already pushed out. If they decide they don't want to serve it anymore, that's their prerogative, right? If you don't have another place to put it, that's your problem, right? If you any company, right, that starts up, if you only have one client, you're in the riskiest spot that you could be. Right. So if YouTube is your one client that pays all of your dollars to you and you haven't diversified in any way, you're asking
Not
for it.
good.
Right?
Yeah.
In general, you're asking for it, right? Like
Yeah.
that's true in B2B, that's true in B2C, it's true in all the ecosystem and all the business scenarios that exist,
Mhm.
right? So I guess that my point is like, not that I disagree, like data portability is there. YouTube API is amazing, right? You really worried about your data, hire an engineer, code all your data out of it. There's nothing that you would lose, right? You can get all the data. By the way, old metadata is not nearly as useful as real-time online active metadata that you can apply. The reason that metadata is really valuable is because YouTube can use it in real time to serve better ads for higher prices. You, as the creator, without the distribution, without the audience, right? Like you can't really take advantage of that to begin with.
There you go.
Greg, you got some fans up in here. I mean, it's like you gotta just do a whole show with you just ranting about this, because it's like I think you can make
I get my old
shtick.
man hair grumpy, my Muppet map. Hey Ken,
Wait,
by the way,
how is that different from before?
We were so excited to get going today that we forgot to do like our deck, like our slides.
Whatever.
Oh.
What? Really? You want to bore people with that? Like we'll get to that at the end, okay? Like people want to have this conversation.
Yeah, I'm trying to load it up now. Sorry. But so Heather, let's what that it turns out we are in more agreement than disagreement, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, because I don't think it's a crisis. Like I'll never look at it that way. And you know, I met my husband on YouTube. I will never complain about YouTube. But I do think that it is worth advocating for a different path to success that is not the influencer creator economy path. And I honestly, I think the passion economy path is easier. It's more practical. It's safer. You know, you own your audience. You have more control. I just think it's the way to go. And that's why I'm, you know, singing it to the rooftop. But I wanted to, you know, the reason why I want to talk to you guys is because is the passion economy even a thing? Like, is that like Adam Davidson? His definition was,
by the way, I just ordered it.
Okay, so his definition was like not digital. So it's like, you know, there's a ex-convict who had to work out in prison and then like now has a whole like, let's take workout in prison, no equipment, turn that into like the new CrossFit or whatever. So, you know, that's his passion economy. There's no YouTube. There's no, you know, he did grow his audience like off of Instagram and stuff like that, but that's not what Adam Davidson highlights. It's very much like, here's your passion. There's a very specific, like only you can do that, right? Only that person with that experience and where that person is coming from can offer that service or product. Lee Jin is very much like startup, you know, tech. But I was like, okay, who's applying it to the YouTube world where there's going to be people who are, you know, still starting YouTube today, tomorrow, in the next year. And I think it's just a hard game to glamorize, you know, hey, yeah, you can make, you know, you can get 100,000 subscribers. No, you can put on all this work and never get there. But that doesn't mean that you can't like turn this into a business and like be really fulfilled and find a lot of meaning. And it's not that hard.
I mean, Greg, you obviously you'll have a different take on this. I think for me, having been a journalist and kind of really always looking at what's happening in the world of tech, the word passion economy isn't really thrown around a lot, like in terms of the mainstream, right? There are a lot of the reporters that I see that cover the internet culture space, they don't talk about it. They've not mentioned the word passion economy. They do talk about the creator economy. There are those that say the use the word creator economy with a little bit of some negativity. It's like,
right, bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah. It's like, I
get it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, but it's a legitimate thing, and you look at a lot of the venture capital and investments and a lot of the startups that are coming up. There's certainly intrigue into this space, right? And I believe that in terms of the passion economy, that's actually a way to go, because there's a lot of turmoil right now in this creator economy space, the influencer space. And as I was talking about at the beginning of the show, it's like, it's almost like you can create this Venn diagram, right? You have like,
right,
but it's like all subsets of subset of subset, right? You know, so I think early on it was the influencers, the social media influencers. Then you have above that, containing that is the creator economy, right? Where you can still be an influencer, but you're actually building something. You're actually you're getting to the point of having a business, right? Mm-hmm. But at some point, you're still churning stuff out, and you're feeding the beast, right? And therefore, we have these issues of mental health, where people are creators are getting burnt out, right? Mm-hmm. But then you take what you're doing, what your focus is on this passion economy, and I think that is more the umbrella of the influencers and the creator economy, where that is taking it as a whole ethereal level, where you're like, okay, let's set what is my actual goal? What do I want to actually be at peace at? And it's not, oh my God, there's this new app, I got to try this out, or I got to be on here, and constantly churn and generate I have 4 million people on TikTok, or I have, like, should I be upset that I have 1,000 followers on Clubhouse, right? For well, Greg has probably 8,000 or so. I'm like, oh my God, like, what the hell? Why I'm not as important? Because, why aren't people paying attention to me? Because I'm a journalist, blah, blah, blah. Like, forget all of that. It's more like focus on what's really important. And I think people should be talking more about this higher level, but I don't think the words of passion economy are not necessarily.
And like, look, I don't even know if that's the word, you know, and like, that's why I'm excited to now be connected to you guys, because I consider you two to be more in, I don't know, like the bridge to this world that I'm just discovering. I heard about passion economy. I understand how it's different. I'm translating it into the world of YouTube. And then my husband and I actually decided to add the word business model, because when I started to talk about the passion economy in the world of YouTube, they were like, yeah, but we're creators and we're passionate too. So what do you mean we're not doing the same thing? And then I was like, okay, there's too much, like, we're using the same words to refer to the same thing. Even YouTube calls your audience a community. I'm like, no, that's not the same thing. So yeah, I love this. Like, I think that, eventually this is the way to go, just because I think it's a unfortunate situation that a lot of people find themselves in when they are. Do you know how enthusiastic and how magical of a moment it is when someone finally decides to give themselves a chance to pick up a camera, put themselves out there, and feel like they have a voice? And then that gets torn down when the goalposts are constantly moving. Yeah. It's like you hit 1,000 subscribers and all of a sudden that's not good enough anymore. You just keep having to go. And finally I was like, you know what if I already crossed the finish line? Yeah. And it's like so much more empowering and fulfilling. And I feel like I can do this forever. Yeah. That is a very different game and a very different approach from, like, oh my God, like even Tom, he just made the switch from full-time teacher to full-time creator. And that he was nominee for California State Teacher of the Year. Very good, lots of accolades with his career. Okay. Definitely was going to retire as a teacher, but YouTube started to, like, take off and started paying more than his teacher salary. But even because he, most of his checks are coming from companies, if the YouTube channel isn't doing good, it sucks, and I hate seeing him get discouraged with the content that he's, like, so passionate about creating, feel like it's not good enough because YouTube says your numbers are going down, like, that's frustrating. But that's why I think this is why I'm so excited about the passion economy. And if you guys ever hear another term, like a better term, or, let me know, because I
guess let me put my final thought here, I guess, relatively speaking. Yeah. I think that creator economy, passion economy, they're kind of like relabelings of previous things, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the creator economy is traditionally what we used to call media businesses, right? They created media, they sold advertising around them, right? Yes, et cetera. Yes. What we're calling the passion economy, or what I think the distinction that you're making, I think is a useful one, is really what I believe traditional entrepreneurship was often about. It was a task. It was doing something usually that you love. And for some people, just not working for someone else was enough love, like that it didn't matter what they were doing, right? I think the word passion is a little bit loaded. because I feel I don't know that I want to force everyone to believe that the only thing you can do is something you're truly, truly passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
But I will say, I do think that like what we're calling passion economy is really like traditionally been like expertise. It's been entrepreneurship. It's been consulting. It's been it's taken many, many forms and shapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many, many, many people. Like you look at all the small products that end up on a Shark Tank. It was someone who had a real problem. They were passionate about solving it. It became a business, right? You look at all the domain experts, the thought leaders, the people who are developing classes. Not everyone can develop a class, by the way, for example, right? Like I always tell everyone, not everyone's got a book in them. Not everyone's got a course in them, right? It doesn't mean that you aren't valuable. It doesn't mean that you have a lot to offer the world.
It's just not for everybody. Yeah.
Right? It's just not for everybody. That manifestation of your knowledge, your expertise, your passion, like maybe isn't the right fit. I do think like it's a highly privileged place, is from my point of view, as an entrepreneur who's been an entrepreneur my whole life and had to struggle through all the normal things that entrepreneurs fight through. And I consider myself privileged to have had the opportunity to do the thing I love the most all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how I think about it. Right. Like I like that you were distinguishing it, I guess, to some degree. I don't know if that's in the vernacular or that's the way maybe like everyone frames it yet. Legion originally called it the passion economy. Actually, the earlier why I think she like her claim to fame early on was in framing the passion economy concept. Mm-hmm. But now we're in the creator economy, and maybe the creator economy is just more of the stood up sort of SMB stylized framing toolkit, et cetera, around the infrastructure scaffolding around helping people with passion create businesses easier and faster, right? And longer, maybe.
But
right?
Greg, one thing I'll point out is like, as you're talking about, I worry that the phrase, because I know early on we're talking passion economy, like just the word passion in the Webster's dictionary, that's one thing. But I worry that word will be become oversaturated, like influencer and creator, very similar to how
creator economy is already oversaturated.
No,
like,
it is.
Puts the word creator in front of everything now. It's suddenly like a special version of something else, right?
Like content.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at like what Aileen Lee came out with the term unicorn, right? And now everything, that word is overplayed. So, well,
at least that's objectively a thing, right?
Fair point. But I think, and if we talk about it in the truest sense of the word, like, oh, what is this? What is a passion? Like, okay, we get it. But then when you move that, when you transfer that to talking about, this, all the tech and this very Silicon Valley-esque type of philosophy, like, then it gets very like overplayed, and then I start rolling. So you're like, forget it.
Let's put it this way. I think the opportunity is real. Obviously, there's a lot of things. This is why I do like Joe Pulizzi's term of content entrepreneur, because the one thing that it seems, at least this generation, by the way, it's not like all passion is expressed as content. However, it feels like this toolkit and business model and tool and services that are evolving tend to be around people who realize and recognize that by putting content into the world, it is a way to create the kinds of opportunities that they want, right? However, they frame themselves different. Not like they're not trying to be media businesses, they're trying to be content entrepreneurs, right?
Right there. That's exactly it.
I kind of like that term. I keep using it just because I think it feels kind of right. Maybe there's other layers in between it or finer strata there, right? But this has been awesome, by the way. So we are at time. So we are.
That's great.
Creator creates, the rest is semantics. However, the show is not over. This is your chance to come and ask Heather your own questions and actually, give me crap for, saying things.
Please do give him crap.
We're about to switch over to After Dark, which is our after show. But let me let's do a little programming note here, because we forgot to do this earlier.
We're going reverse Benjamin Button here, right?
By the way, feel free to give us a follow. We're on YouTube, Creative Economy, Twitter, Creative Economy, Twitch, Flipboard, everywhere, basically. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're interviewing Heather. So next week is our good friend and dear friend, James Hicks. He will be here to talk to us about Hicks New Media and all the amazing things that he's doing as well. We do have 2 shows a week. There's a third one coming soon. We'll tell you about that shortly. This is obviously Creator Economy on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time. But if you want the latest Creator Economy news, turn into Creative Briefs Friday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Don't worry, it's recorded. If you don't want to get up that early, you can always see it later.
Wait, can I catch the recording later?
You can catch it later also, Ken. So as I mentioned, James 6 is coming up. August 25th, actually, we had a slight scheduling change. So Martin from Garden is going to be here. September 1st, we have Antonio back with Steven to talk about the Black Creator Crew. On September 8th, our friend Jim Louderback will be back to give us some exclusive something about VidCon, I promise.
We hope. We're pressuring him.
Yeah,
get some good news for them.
If you would like to be a guest on the show, we would love to have you. You're always welcome to participate in real time, anytime, but always head over to creativeeconomy.com. You can apply, fill in a form so we can get your info and you can be a guest for us. So give us a few minutes if you are ready. Ken, share a link out to Create Economy, create.show/live, because that's where the after show is going to be. Give you a chance to be in an interactive environment and ask us some questions. It's off the record, so it won't be recorded or streamed, but you do get to have an interesting chat. And with that, we are about to close out. So I'll leave it here for a few seconds for everyone to have a chance to jump over to the new link, and we'll see you shortly. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Are we like muted in the green room? We're in the green room, right?
I don't know if we're still live. Oh, we're still broadcasting. So,
yay. Okay.